Okay, so let's unpack this today. I have to admit, when I first looked at the title of the text we're covering for this deep dive, I did a double take. I actually thought it might be a typo, because we're looking at a pairing of words that, well, they really shouldn't work together.
It's a bit of a collision, isn't it? Like it feels like two completely different worlds just crashing into each other.
It really does. Because on one hand, you have the term primordial mother, and immediately my brain goes to, mythology or maybe Jungian archetypes, or just something very soft, ancient, and comforting, like a goddess figure draped in robes.
Right, the ultimate nurturing presence.
Exactly. But then the source material pivots hard. I mean, like whiplash hard, and calls her something completely different. It calls her the wholeness dealer.
Which sounds like someone you'd meet in a dark alley at 2 in the morning, not someone you'd pray to.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds highly transactional, illicit almost, like she's hanging out in a trench coat waiting to sell you something you're absolutely desperate for. But as we dug into this, it became really clear that this contradiction is the entire point.
The source is basically asking us to look at something we usually romanticize the mother figure,
Right.
right, and strip it entirely down to the studs.
And that's our mission today. We aren't talking about a literal person. We aren't talking about your mom or Mother Earth in some poetic, mystical sense.
Which I think is a good thing because mother is an incredibly loaded word for a lot of people.
Highly loaded.
And that's really the first hurdle the text asks us to clear. If we stay in that realm of sentimentality, the warm hugs, the cookies, the unconditional validation, we completely miss the actual utility of the concept.
Hmm.
The text frames the primordial mother as a structural pattern. It's an internal mechanism.
A structural pattern. See, that sounds more like architecture or software engineering than psychology.
And that framing is helpful because it takes the emotion out of it for a second. We are looking at an origin pattern. And the claim here is massive. The source argues that this pattern is the literal root of psychological stability. And if we don't understand it, we end up spending our entire adult lives trying to buy it from the wrong people.
Right, which brings in the dealer aspect. We're looking for a fix. But the source is arguing we're looking for that fix in the marketplace when it's actually an internal operating system that we just need to reboot.
Precisely. We are constantly looking for a product when we should be looking for a process.
So let's get analytical with this. Let's strip all the mysticism away. The text opens with a very hard boundary. It says the primordial mother is not a person. So if she's not a person, what are we actually looking at here?
The source defines her as the field of continuity. Now, to really understand that, we have to go back to the very beginning of human consciousness. I want you to think about an infant.
Okay, so we're talking before language, before the concept of I am me and you are you.
Before all of that, in that pre-verbal state, there is zero separation. The infant literally doesn't know where their skin ends and the mother begins. The source calls this the total environment. It's not just a relationship, it is the entire world. There is no other, there's just being.
The text actually uses three specific phrases to describe this before state, and I found them really compelling. It says it is containment before separation, nourishment before striving, and unity before fragmentation.
Nourishment before striving is the one that always sticks with me. Because if you think about your life right now, just think about normal adult life.
It's all a striving.
Everything is striving. You want safety, you have to work for it, you want food, you buy it, you want love, you earn it, or you negotiate for it.
Hmm.
We live in a purely transactional reality. We are constantly reaching out, trying to grab what we need to survive.
But this origin pattern, it's the memory of a time when the need and the fulfillment were the exact same event. You didn't have to ask, you didn't have to perform, you didn't even have to be good, you just were, and the environment met you there.
Right. And that experience, that total environment, gets encoded deeply in the nervous system. It isn't just a fuzzy, nostalgic memory. It is biological. And this is the crucial technical point the source makes. It says the primordial mother is the internal memory of undivided being.
Undivided being, I mean, that's a beautiful phrase, but it also implies something a little tragic. It implies that where we are right now is divided.
That is the core of the human condition. We grow up, we encounter the word no, we encounter shame. We realize that to fit in, to be loved, or just to survive in a really complex social world, we have to split ourselves.
Right, like, I can be this part of myself, but definitely not that part.
Exactly. I can be happy, but I can't be angry. I can be smart, but I can't be vulnerable. We fracture.
We basically start editing ourselves.
We edit, we suppress, we hide. We create a self that faces the world, and we shove all the rest of it into the shadow.
So the primordial mother isn't some goddess in the sky coming to save us. She's the internal memory of who we were before the world broke us into pieces.
She is your baseline. Think of her as the backup file on your hard drive from before you started partitioning the disk. And the central argument here is that every single neurosis, every anxiety, every desperate grasp for a partner or a leader is just an unconscious attempt to get back to that baseline, to get back to that field of continuity.
Which brings us right back to that provocative title, the wholeness dealer. I want to push on this term a bit because, again, dealer implies she's giving you something. Like, here's a dime bag of serenity, here's a hit of peace. But the source explicitly says that is not how it works.
No, and this is where the dealer metaphor is almost satirical. In our hyper-consumer culture, we think wholeness is an additive process. I will be whole when I get the promotion. I will be whole when I get married. I will be whole when I lose 10 pounds. We are constantly trying to add things to the cart to feel complete.
We treat our souls like an Amazon shopping cart. If we just find that one right item, the empty feeling goes away.
Exactly. But the text argues the wholeness dealer operates on a totally inverted logic. She deals in subtraction. She doesn't give you anything new at all. She removes the fragmentation. She deals in the removal of the false splits you've created just to survive. She takes away the noise so you can finally hear the signal again.
Let's parse that out practically, because I think fragmentation is one of those clinical therapy words that everyone nods at, but nobody actually knows what it looks like on a random Tuesday afternoon. The source actually lists specific symptoms of what this fragmentation looks like in daily life.
It does. It lists self-rejection, unresolved shame, split identity, suppressed emotion. And this is the huge one. Chronic comparison.
Chronic comparison really hits home, especially today in the digital age. It's that impulse to constantly triangulate your position against everyone else. Am I doing better than him? Am I happier than her? Is my vacation as photogenic as theirs?
And we have to ask why we do that. It's not just vanity. The source argues we compare because we fundamentally feel incomplete. If you are whole, if you're truly undivided, there is no external reference point needed. You just are.
Right. A tree doesn't look around and compare its branches to the tree next to it. It just grows.
Exactly. Comparison is a loud symptom of the split. It's you looking for the missing piece of yourself in someone else's life. You're scanning the horizon for the part of you that you think you lost.
There's another distinction here regarding fragmentation that I think is vital for anyone listening who struggles with perfectionism, because the text says the primordial mother integrates opposites.
This is the absolute antidote to perfectionism, and it is a tough pill to swallow.
It is, because usually when we say I want to be whole, what we really mean is I want to be perfect. I want to be purely good, purely productive, purely kind. I want to take the lazy, angry, dark parts of me, cut them off, and throw them in the trash.
Right. We treat our psyche like this manicured garden where we're frantically trying to weed out half the native plants. We want a monoculture of goodness.
Yeah.
But the source says the wholeness dealer doesn't operate like that. She doesn't force toxic positivity. She holds the darkness, too. The text uses a great word here. Layered. We aren't broken into good and bad compartments. We are layered.
So true wholeness isn't about being a saint. It's about letting the sinner and the saint sit at the exact same table without them trying to kill each other.
That is the definition of integration. Can the part of you that is terrified sit right next to the part of you that is brave? Can the part of you that is petty sit next to the part of you that is generous? The wholeness dealer is the internal capacity to say, yes, both of these are true, and I am the container for both.
That sounds incredibly relieving, but also really difficult, because we are socially wired to avoid that kind of tension. We hate the tension of being contradictory. We just want to be one simple thing.
We despise it. It's deeply uncomfortable. It makes us feel like hypocrites. And because we can't hold that tension ourselves, because we don't have that internal mother structure fully online, we inevitably look for someone else to hold it for us.
Which perfectly leads us into the danger of outsourcing section. And I have to say, this part of the text felt like a giant warning label, like the skull and crossbones on a bottle of poison.
It is a warning label. It's the high voltage sign on the electrical box of your psyche.
The source says humans make a fundamental, often devastating error. We take this deep biological need for the primordial mother, this ancient need for a total environment of safety, and we project it onto external things that cannot possibly carry that weight. Romance, spirituality, ideology, power.
Let's focus on romance for a second, because that's probably the most universal one.
Yeah.
How often do we enter a relationship unconsciously, hoping the other person will finally, permanently make us feel safe?
I mean, that is literally the plot of every rom-com ever made. You complete me.
Right. Jerry Maguire has created a lot of psychological collateral damage. Because if I need you to be my field of continuity, I am no longer relating to you as an equal partner. I am relating to you as a parent. I am demanding that you regulate my nervous system. I am asking you to be my wholeness dealer.
And that is just a crushing amount of weight to put on another human being. They will eventually buckle under it.
It's an impossible weight, and the text calls this a trap. Because the moment I project the mother archetype onto you, I create an instant imbalance. I become the child, and the child has no autonomy.
That's the kicker, right? You surrender your power.
You have to. If you are the sole source of my wholeness, I have to keep you happy at all costs. I can't be my authentic layered self. I have to be whoever you need me to be so you don't leave and take my stability with you. And then the fragmentation cycle just starts all over again.
This gets even scarier when we scale it up and talk about leadership. The text specifically mentions projecting this need onto leaders. Political, spiritual, corporate.
This is where the concept gets genuinely dangerous on a societal level.
Hmm.
If you feel deeply fragmented and unsafe, and a leader stands up on a stage and says, I alone can fix it, or I will make you completely safe, your unconscious mind just lights up. You willingly surrender your internal authority because you desperately want them to fix the split inside you. You want them to be the wholeness dealer.
You want a parent.
You want an all-powerful parent who will pat you on the head, tell you everything's going to be fine, and assure you that you don't have to navigate the terrifying complexity of the real world.
There's a line in the source that is surprisingly blunt about this dynamic. It says, the true wholeness dealer does not seduce dependency. She strengthens autonomy.
That is the ultimate litmus test right there. If you are following a guru or a partner or a political movement, and the underlying vibe is, you need us to be okay, that is not the primordial mother. That is a cheap substitute. That is a trap. The real pattern always, always directs you back to your own internal structure.
But that's the scary part, isn't it? Because if she directs me back to myself, that means I have to handle the mess.
It means no one is coming to save you.
The text actually states that explicitly. It says she is not a rescuer.
We want a rescuer so badly. We want the sentimentality. We want the warm, cosmic hug that says, don't worry, I'll fix your life. But the source is adamant. This structural pattern does not protect you from consequences. It protects continuity.
Okay, we need to define continuity here, because to me the word continuity just sounds like business as usual, just keeping the lights on. But the text gives it a much more dynamic, active definition.
Right? It's not stagnation. It's not about nothing ever changing or never getting hurt. In this context, continuity is a rigorous cycle of resilience. The source defines it as learning, adapting, repairing, and returning.
Repairing and returning.
Think about a thick rubber band. If you stretch it, it experiences tension. That's fragmentation in a way. Continuity is the structural property that allows that rubber band to snap back to its original shape without snapping in half.
So she doesn't stop you from stretching. She doesn't stop you from failing or getting your heart absolutely broken or making a massive, humiliating mistake.
No, she is the internal mechanism that ensures that after the heartbreak or after the public failure, you don't stay completely shattered, you repair. You integrate the brutal experience. You return to yourself, maybe a little wiser, maybe carrying some scars, but you are whole. You don't just dissolve into the ether.
That feels very distinct from the concept of resilience as we usually hear it pitched, which is often just toughing it out or white-knuckling your way through pain. This feels softer, but structurally stronger.
Because it's biological. And that is the next major pivot the source makes. We've been talking very conceptually up to this point. Archetypes, psychology, societal leadership. But the text grounds this phenomenon directly in the human body. It says the primordial mother exists functionally in nervous system regulation.
I really appreciate that the source does this, because otherwise this conversation can get very abstract very quickly. We can get lost in the philosophical clouds, but every single one of us knows what physiological dysregulation feels like.
Oh, absolutely. The tight chest, the shallow, rapid breathing, the tunnel vision, the racing, catastrophic thoughts. That is the physical body entering a state of fragmentation. It's your nervous system screaming, I am not safe. I need to split off to survive. I need to fight or flee or freeze right now.
And the wholeness dealer is the physical shift out of that state.
The source gives these beautiful, highly specific somatic examples. One of them is simply the breath returning after panic.
We've all felt that exact moment where the vice grip on your lungs just finally lets go.
That deep exhale isn't just air leaving your lungs. That is your internal structure coming back online. That is the mother pattern asserting itself, saying, you are safe now. Reconnect. It's the biological system regulating itself.
Another example the text gives is grief moving through the body instead of freezing.
This is a massive one for technical clarity, because fragmentation often manifests as a freeze response. We completely numb out. We scroll on our phones for 4 straight hours because we are terrified to feel the sadness. We binge watch television. We drink. We dissociate.
We disconnect from the body because residing in the body feels way too dangerous.
Right. But wholeness allows the wave to actually crash over you. So they instructionally sound enough to feel this immense grief without dying from it. When you let the grief move, when you actually cry that deep, full-body, shaking cry, the kind that leaves you exhausted but strangely clear, that is the structural coherence holding you. That is the primordial mother in action.
And the last somatic example, which I honestly think is the most profound, is shame dissolving under the weight of truth.
Shame is the ultimate fragmenter. Shame tells you, I am bad. I am fundamentally irreparably flawed. I need to hide this part of me forever. It demands that you create a secret life.
It builds a brick wall between you and the rest of the world.
Exactly. But truth says, I am human. I made a mistake. I have the capacity to repair. When you move from shame into truth, you are physically moving from fragmentation into continuity. You are integrating the mistake into your broader story, instead of letting that single mistake define your entire existence.
So this wholeness dealer isn't selling a product at all. She's essentially the parasympathetic nervous system kicking into gear.
In strict biological terms,
Yes.
she's your innate capacity for self-regulation. And think about what that does. That radically shifts the location of the divine or the saving force. It's not in a church. It's not in your romantic partner. It's not in a political leader. It is quite literally in your vagus nerve.
Which sounds decidedly unromantic. The divine is in your vagus nerve. It doesn't exactly look great embroidered on a pillow.
It doesn't. But it is incredibly empowering. Because if the mechanism is already installed inside you, you don't have to beg for it. You don't have to earn it from someone else. You just have to clear the debris and access it.
And that leads us perfectly to the outro and the concept of reclamation. The source is very clear on this final point. It says, wholeness is not granted from the outside. It is reclaimed.
Reclaimed is a heavy, deliberate word. It implies work. It implies this state was yours to begin with. You lost access to it through the trauma of simply growing up. And now it is your responsibility to go get it back.
The text lays out a sort of checklist, or maybe conditions is a better way to frame it, for how this reclamation actually happens in practice. It's not just sitting around thinking positive thoughts. It demands concrete action from us.
It demands a lot of courage. Condition 1 is when you stop splitting yourself.
Which fundamentally means we have to stop performing.
Stop performing goodness. Stop pretending you aren't envious or angry or exhausted. Acknowledge those less savory parts. Pull up a chair and invite them to the table. As long as you are actively hiding parts of yourself from yourself, you simply cannot be whole. You cannot reclaim the pattern if you are continually denying half the data.
Condition 2 is when you start outsourcing stability.
This is the cold turkey moment for a lot of people. It's catching yourself in the very act of trying to get your partner or your boss to regulate your emotions for you. It's noticing that frantic impulse to send the text message asking for validation and stopping yourself, saying, no, wait, I can actually hold this anxiety myself.
And then condition 3, which brings it all together. When you allow full emotional range without collapse.
Without collapse. That is the ultimate metric of the wholeness dealer. Can you feel ecstatic joy without getting manic and checking out of reality? Can you feel crushing despair without assuming it will last until the end of time? The primordial mother is simply the container that is vast enough to allow that full range to exist.
It reminds me of the weather. The sky holds the Category 5 hurricane, and it holds the perfect sunshine. The sky doesn't collapse just because it's raining hard.
That is a perfect analogy. You are the sky. The emotions are just the passing weather systems. Fragmentation is believing you are the storm. Wholeness is knowing you are the sky that effortlessly holds the storm.
The text wraps up with a final distinction that I think really drives this entire deep dive home. It says, the primordial mother, the wholeness dealer, not a rescuer, an integrator.
Yes, a rescuer fundamentally sees you as a victim. A rescuer confirms your smallness. They say, oh, you poor thing, step aside, let me handle the hard parts. An integrator sees you as a complex, powerful system that has merely gone temporarily offline. She doesn't pity you, she reboots you.
She does not make you smaller. She makes you whole.
And that is the ultimate takeaway. We spend so much of our lives desperately wanting to be saved. We fantasize about being saved. But being saved keeps you small. Being whole makes you vast. It makes you fully capable of handling the weight of your own life.
It is a profoundly sobering text, honestly. It aggressively strips away the comforting fantasy of the perfect mother swooping in to save us. But in exchange, it gives us back the reality of our own immense capacity.
It moves the mother archetype from a nostalgic, hazy memory of the past to a highly functioning biological tool in the present tense. It turns a noun into a verb.
So as we wrap up, here's the provocative challenge we want to leave you with today. We want you to look at your life, your close relationships, your career, your politics through the very specific lens of this
It's
text.
a diagnostic question for you to mull over.
If you stopped looking for stability in your partners, your leaders, or your chosen ideologies today, if you cold turkey stopped outsourcing your internal regulation completely, what specific fragmentation within yourself would you be forced to confront immediately?
What part of you falls apart when you finally stop propping it up with other people? Because that is exactly where the real work begins.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.
See you next time.